ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by my buddy Myron.
And your buddy Myron is feeling Ucey today, Nick. Are you feeling Ucey?
Always feeling Ucey. I thought you were going to say juicy for a minute, but it's easy. We're feeling Ucey.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit, man. But hey, I'm kind of excited, dude. I know you don't spoil it. There's something coming up later this week that we haven't done in a while that I know you're going to work on.
Yeah.
And we're going to, by the way, spoiler alert, is the thing about this weekend or is it about the next weekend?
It's next weekend. It's the
Okay,
12th.
perfect. The reason why I say that is because when you do that special project that we're not going to talk about here, we're going to tell everybody, first and foremost, as soon as we have that video, Myron, it'll air over on our YouTube channel.
Bingo.
So they'll get it early, and then we'll probably release it to the general public on Monday of next week. So that way, if you're a paid member over there on YouTube, you will get that early. It'll come out probably Friday, I'm guessing, so maybe Thursday, Friday, somewhere in there. But yeah, you'll get it on our YouTube channel if you're a member, and then it'll release the following Monday. So that's kind of something I want to get back into a little bit, is actually releasing things. The show already does. You know, you get to get that early on there as well. So, and hopefully, speaking of which, by the way, I hope everybody's going to be used to being us back to our Wednesday release date. Because we are recording on Tuesdays. So if you're a paid member, you'll get the show on Tuesday, and then you will get it. And hopefully going forward, we can stick into recording early on Tuesday. So that way they'll have the entire day on Tuesday to give it a listen before it releases on Wednesday. So
unfortunately, my professional work schedule has been like an indie booking lately, where they just bring me in, you know. So it's settling down. I hope I'll be on this schedule for a long time now.
Speaking of indie booking, man, hey, look, I was going to save this for later, but how about Krule becoming the IWTV World Heavyweight Champion?
Yes.
I think somebody said that that's what they should do a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it was you.
Yeah, I mean, good call. Good call by those guys. Listen, and I said it then, and I said I'll stand behind it 110%. It was absolutely zero against anything to do against, because I love AC Mack. I think AC Mack is a phenomenal. I've said I'm not sure why AC Mack's not on TV somewhere. That's just my take. But
I wouldn't know why. No, I couldn't give you a good answer for that.
The but there, Myron, was Krule is an excellent face for that IWTV brand.
Krule is magic. Yeah. Okay, seriously. When is the last time you had a guy on the indie circuits that went around and it was a scary, almost superhero, super villain type character, like the Undertaker was, like Kane was, the big guy, the big monster, totally scary. He's killing it. And it couldn't be a more deserving guy, too. One of the nicest guys I've ever met in professional wrestling.
I love the fact that he embraces the monster. Like a lot of people, it's funny. I said something to somebody the other day, and this is super tangent. By the way, everybody's going to be completely lost by our format today. We're going freestyle today for a reason, and I wanted to try something. But what it's about everybody in real life wants to be the tough guy. Everybody wants to be, I'm always right, I'm a badass, that kind of thing. I feel like, but here's the thing. Everybody wants to be the tough guy, but they don't want to be a monster.
Yeah.
I feel the same way in wrestling. Everybody wants to be Stone Cold, but nobody wants to be, Kane.
Yes.
Or whatever, or the evil Undertaker, or even back in the day. I know this is messed up. It's not the fair comparison, but 83 Weeks just covered Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah,
the devil, brother. But
that's the thing. I mean, I can see shades of that in Krule, and growing up in Alabama during the Satanic Panic, where everything was of the devil, and Kevin Sullivan's touring through Continental. You talk about somebody who was legitimately scared to death of Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Brooklyn, as part of that package, worked spectacular. She's the evil, Because here's the thing, I always think that the monster Krule is just paves the path of destruction, right?
Uh-huh.
But there's almost nothing worse. There's nothing worse than a destructive monster with an evil mind behind the guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's something she adds to that mix, especially when it grows. But now while he's out on the, when he's out there alone, here's what I said to something, and it's, gave myself chill bumps thinking about something. Who can beat him? Like, that's just literally it, because he's such a main, like, I don't want to say main roster because that doesn't make sense in this thing, but like out on the indies, I sit there and look across the board and I was like, who can beat him to take that title from him? I don't know that anybody does for a very, very long time.
I don't think so either. I don't think it works to have somebody beat him right now. He needs to tote that title for a while, and give it more and more like relevancy and credibility. The longer he makes a belt look good. I'm not belittling AC Mack, because AC Mack's a phenomenal champion. But
here's the other thing. I mentioned this a while back. For IWTV's sake, he also creates merchandise and T-shirts and other stuff.
Masks.
Yeah. I mean, there's some money to be made there. I'm just saying. Yeah. But kudos to that guy. I mean, that's look. I was gonna save that for later, but I was like, the hell with that. Let's lead off the show, because in my opinion, that is a huge thing in the wrestling world that happened. And by the way, in the way they did it, like an open challenge, and he destroyed him in like a minute. I was like, wow. That shows you the level at which Krule is viewed. Because think about it. By the way, here's the other thing. He's got titles elsewhere, and we're going to get into that. A matter of fact, let's go in reverse order, Myron. That's where we're going to be this week. I mean,
you'll be there.
I'll be there. Yeah, I'm gonna. Southern Honor's running their big show Friday. Cannot wait, to get out there and check them out. I hate that you're not going to be there, but
yeah, me too.
Happens.
But like I said, work is restructuring some stuff, so I'm changing things. But that means I'll be off the next weekend, and I'll get to go to wrestling that weekend. But you got Southern Honor and Southern Fried.
Yeah.
Which to me is like the big combination weekend. So
yeah. And I may drag the grandkids to Southern Fried, because I haven't been in a while. I've talked about taking them. So yeah, that'll be fun. I love the Southern Honor, Southern Fried doubleheaders. They're great weekends. Yes. So if you are local here, and what I mean local, like here in Georgia, I'm not even talking about like, the Atlanta area, because I mean, Canton is up, kind of on that northwest side. Monroe is on the east, that east side of Atlanta. So you can get to one or both, for that matter, pretty easy depending on where you live in the state. So that's just my take. Tennessee, by the way, is a super quick drive down to Canton too. So yeah, lots of stuff. By the way, Krule, who we just talked about, will be at Southern Honor. Southern Fried, I mean, will be headlined, of course. CT Keys is their heavyweight champion. But I just got a gut feeling you're going to see your Billy Bucks, your Nick Halens, your Hunter Jameses, and more.
I've looked at the card.
Carly Bravo, by the way, will be there. We talked about him last week. So
yeah, great card.
Yeah,
great card.
Lots of cool stuff going on. But hey, that's the indie stuff leading off the show, totally backwards from what a lot of people are used to.
Yep.
But I did want to address a couple things, Myron, that we were talking about. You put up a post and it was funny. Like, clearly there is somebody in Connecticut, listening to the show.
Yes.
Because they completely looks like they're going to go away from Hell in a Cell is being moved away from a pay-per-view. And I don't think either one of us think that's the end of it. I think there's more to come.
I've said almost since we started doing this, Hell in a Cell is a match that you use to blow off a big feud. Okay? That's your payoff for a big... It's not a pay-per-view. Because if you make it a pay-per-view, you have to book a rivalry that's going to end there. And that limits the way you can do things. And you're okay, 2 months out, you know somebody's they're going to have to start putting together, and it's predictable. Having the Hell in the Cell as a moving match, maybe it's at Mania, maybe it's at SummerSlam, that makes it important to me. Okay, that's a big deal, and you don't know when it's coming, and then all of a sudden you see, I challenge you to a Hell in a Cell, and then they have the Hell in a Cell match, like old school type stuff.
Hell in a Cell is a last resort match.
Yes, where people are interfering or
Correct.
somebody's running, you can't keep them in the match.
A Hell in a Cell match would be something in today's environment at WWE that somebody challenges Roman Reigns to keep the bloodline out, who we're going to address in a second. But
Yes.
you know what I mean? That's a Hell in a Cell match.
Exactly.
So
it's something that Money in the Bank can be a pay-per-view because it's different. Because that way you just put a bunch of guys in to compete for a shot.
I disagree, though, brother. I honestly, I mean, it can be. Let me back up. I don't disagree that it can be. I really enjoyed the Money in the Bank as part of WrestleMania because it was a great, because, you know, they create some matches just to shove people on the WrestleMania card.
Yeah.
To me, the Money in the Bank ladder match, because they make the women's one night, the men the other night.
I see that.
And then the reason why you can take 8 women and 8 men who you don't have to figure out a story at the last minute to put them in. They're literally, that's okay. Like, we don't have a story for these. We don't have to kill time and focus. We're going to put those 8 in each match into the women, you know, into the Money in the Bank matches. There's your storyline.
Okay. But the problem with that I have is you run the risk of somebody cashing in at Mania and not toting that briefcase. Because I think the longer they tote the briefcase, it brings more drama.
Hey, even better, Myron. One of the women wins at night 1, and then the like, if she wins, and then the like, because you know typically there's a SmackDown title and a women's title match on each night. What if the women's is night 1? Somebody wins the cash in on night 2. She literally cashes in and wins. Mm-hmm. And for the men, the same exact night. He wins it earlier in the night, and then later that night he cashes it in. So I get what you're saying, because I love the fast cash in too versus, you know, but the reason why I liked it, because remember back in the day, you had 1 year to cash in. They just said you had to do it by next WrestleMania.
Okay, fair enough.
Before the next Money in the Bank. So you could cash in at WrestleMania, and you know, and it was like, it wasn't a surprise thing. But anyway, I think we got, because we can sidebar with the best of them, right?
Yes.
I like, I think, by the way, the Elimination Chamber needs to be the next one to fall. I hate that it's in between the Rumble. Yes. I think that match is saved until you have a vacated championship, or you no longer clearly have a defined number 1 contender, and you need to crown one. Who says the Elimination Chamber can't be at the insert random pay-per-view in July?
Okay, let's just go ahead and set a rule then. The only pay-per-view we want to have named after a match is the Royal Rumble.
I think there's talks of King of the Ring, so that's not really a match per se. That's a format. And I'm okay with that one, which is totally hypocritical, I guess. What I think happens, what I would love to see happen, is because here's the thing. I don't know Triple H. I don't know any, but I think like the things you hear about him, and I listen to enough like Road Dogg podcast, Kevin Nash podcast, to say like there's a little bit of insight they share. I would love to see him embrace history, and the July pay-per-view is the Great American Bash. The October is not Hell in a Cell. It's Halloween Havoc, which, again, we'll want to talk about that in a second.
Did you see the NXT Halloween Havoc, by the way?
Loved it.
Dude, I went back and watched it the other day, and I was like, this is just phenomenal. It was a great pay-per-view. And the women had a ladder match. Here's my question, Nick, and this is going to sound crazy. Is Triple H just giving us everything? Is he going to give us too much? Are we going to get spoiled because how great it is? Because everything I see on wrestling TV right now is terrific. Saturday, they're going to Saudi Arabia. No telling what's going to happen while they're there. is Triple H the best step parent in the world? Now that he's taken over from Dad?
Yeah.
It's almost like he's
Every
trying to
day's
suck up to us.
Disneyland, right?
Every day's Disneyland. Everything's been wonderful since he's taken over.
Look, everything's not perfect, and that's fine, and I don't expect it to be. But I think here's the thing. I think we're going through the honeymoon phase where he is. I think he does have to be careful because you have to maintain it and keep it going. Ask Tony Khan, right? I mean, like that's.
Ugh.
I mean, sometimes the honeymoon phase wears off, and you got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
Look, if you've ever been married, the honeymoon phase comes at some point, and then it becomes a little bit of work, and you got to work through that.
Yes, once you get tired of each other, that's when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And wrestling fans get tired so fast.
They're fickle people.
He's actually not just talking to when we had to divide wrestling fans into two groups. Wrestling fans and smart wrestling fans. And he's making smart wrestling fans and regular wrestling fans happy at the same time. Okay? But regular wrestling fans don't understand all this minutia behind things because they don't make it their whole life and they don't study this stuff. Smart wrestling fans study everything. We talked about this with this Bo Dallas Howdy thing.
Yeah.
Okay? People that just watch wrestling, like kids and just folks that'll turn it on because it's on, they saw that and they're like, oh, is it another personality? Everybody on the internet's like, that's Bo Dallas because of the earring. Because we study wrestling like it's just our lives. And I'm not saying anything because we do that.
Oh, it looks just like his uncle Barry Windham,
Yeah, exactly. We break this stuff down to minutia. And some folks just watch this stuff and enjoy it.
If my wife thought that was just fucking weird.
Yeah.
That was creepy and weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And is that from that horror movie? Who knows?
Could be. I do like so far. I know people are already kind of like, well, wait. I'm always about like, I like what they're doing. I'm curious to see where they go. And by the way,
yes,
when it's funny. Eric Bischoff always talks about leave them with questions. Yes. More questions than answers, because that makes you want to watch next week and next week and next week's. But just hate to tell you guys, they're doing that pretty good. There lots of stuff every week is made. I want to see where they're going with this. Like, yeah, eventually you have to have a little bit of a payoff, but then there's going to be more of a question that you got to follow up and ask again. By the way, speaking of something weird, like catching you off guard, we were talking about this before we talked about Raw. Like, look, lots of things about Raw were what they were. So two things from Raw that stood out to me, and they're going to be the most absolute, not the things you would think they're going to stand out for me. Alpha Academy dressing like the Chris Farley and Patrick Swayze Chippendales things from the Saturday Night Live. Otis had on like the bow tie, whatever, and Gable had on like the wig and stuff. He was the Patrick Swayze.
I haven't watched it yet, and you didn't spoil it because now you make me want to watch it more. Folks, I worked till 9 o'clock. I got home and my girlfriend had made this wonderful dinner, and I just sat down and ate dinner with my family and went to bed. So I didn't watch wrestling, but now I was wanting to watch it. But now that you tell me they do the Otis, how?
I'm gonna leave it alone. No. They had a match around it, so I'm gonna leave it at that. So you can go back and watch it. But it was probably
I didn't think those two guys were capable of that.
Yeah, it's the second or third thing. Wow. My favorite things on WWE television this week. It was literally up there. One of the others that arguably is second or third that I saw this week was how shocked I was when Asuka and Alexa Bliss won the women's tag team championship. I was like, tip of the cap. It was like a random insert two wrestlers into a match to go against the stable, with the tag titles, and it's going to be a no-brainer. Bianca was involved outside the ring. Bayley was involved outside the ring. Okay, it's going to get, they're going to retain, and no big deal. When Alexa and Asuka won, I literally was like, I never would have seen that coming. And it wasn't I don't know if that it was a swerve for swerve's sake or whatever, but it was just really cool to get something that like caught me off guard and I did not see coming. Yeah. And, by the way, it wasn't like when I say that, like there's two legitimate women there they won. And I'm like, okay, let's see them with a run. That'll be cool. because those two characters can have a hell of a run, right?
Yep.
It also would lead me to believe Alexa Bliss is not going to have anything to do with the Bray Wyatt character. I don't know.
Well, maybe they just need something for her to do until it's time for that.
Maybe.
Who knows?
We'll say.
Is she still got Lily? Is she still carrying that?
Well, Lily still pops up on the screen when she's coming to the ring, so I don't. That's what I'm saying. I'm kind of confused. So
yeah, it's got me. That's got me totally confused.
Yeah. But
how about Emma coming back? Did you see that?
I did. I was a little disappointed that the crowd didn't, and it's not. Was it that it leaked out early, so people kind of knew? Has she been gone too long? I mean, we both think she's super talented. But I don't know, man. It was just kind of, I thought the reaction was kind of flat, but I'm glad she's back. I mean, she's a good, talent to have on the roster. I mean, so I don't know.
When did they stop bringing people back though? I mean, they cut for budget reasons is what they told us. And now they're just
but think about it. None of the people he brought back are super high payroll. And maybe now that they're back out on the road, they're doing house shows again and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that revenue's coming back. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's
Stock apparently is doing really good from what I heard,
doing
right?
well enough. Trust me. I can speak from experience. It's doing quite well. I'm very, very happy with it, to say the least. So, anyway, my wife asked me about it and I told her, and she was really, really floored. Put it this way, Myron, what she invested, it grew to a point that I sold half of it, and the other half is worth 3 to 4 times what she paid for the initial stock.
That's a good investment.
It's a good investment so far.
Good investment.
So anyway,
in wrestling,
yeah.
You put your money where your mouth is.
I showed her the dollar amount what the stock was going for at the time,
and
she just baffled because she's like, it's up there with like, as she put it, like legitimate company stocks, as she put it, like, and I'm like, yeah, something like that. That's about that's a good translation. I do like that. But so yeah, man. So we were talking about Bo Dallas. We were talking about hey, I know what it was. I wanted to bring up because we were talking about how plans clearly have moved in different directions. Alexa Bliss with the whole maybe she's with the Fiend, maybe she's not, blah blah blah. Well, the words come out that essentially, listen, Sami Zayn was supposed to eventually, I guess, turn and be paired with Kevin Owens to have a feud with the Bloodline of some kind and potentially involve other, like, those indie darlings, I guess. Maybe we're going to, I'd heard rumor, but I don't know. Who knows who it was going to be. But clearly they had literally pumped the brakes on that.
Oh,
because if Friday showed you anything, the wrestling world's favorite thing, and I hate to say this, I'm not even talking about in WWE. The wrestling world's favorite thing right now is Sami Zayn and the Bloodline.
Dude, okay. This whole run has changed my entire opinion on Sami Zayn. This whole run, think of all the merch they're selling just because what he's doing. Okay? I haven't looked to see how many shirts he has or how many Sami Zayn or how many Honor and Ucey things they have going on right now. But I bet there's a lot of them. Okay? Dude, when everybody broke in the middle of that bit, I was dying because I watched it live. I didn't have a chance to tape it, because it moved onto Fox Sports South or something.
Fox Sports 1, yeah.
So I didn't record it because maybe I did record it. I don't know how these high-tech YouTube TV DVRs work. Maybe they find the program. I don't know. Because the World Series is on. And the World Series is preempting, apparently, AEW this week, too. Is it?
It probably no, they did it last week, but if they get bumped, it's basketball.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
well, anyway, so I'm sitting there watching it live Friday night, and I was just tickled. It was so funny. It was original. It was real. It was just a great experience to see, and that's not something they've done a great job on in the last few years. And it's gotten to a point now, it's starting to happen, and it's happening more often. That's wonderful. That was such a good bit. Sami Zayn did such a good job. And the Usos did the best they could. But Sami, man, when he said Ucey, those guys just losing their shit.
Yeah.
Because you could say, it was Jimmy in the background, right? That was wandering off. It was like trying to hide his face.
Yeah, right. But Jay, I mean, trying to like put his hands
Yeah.
on it, and it was funny because you could see there was a spot of Roman like, oh no, turned him around. Like, if I'm broke, like you're breaking too, brother. Like we're all going to be on camera.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I thought, but yeah, it was funny. Look, was it? Because it wasn't like, I don't know. Somebody was like, "Oh, it was kind." I had literally had somebody tell me like, "Oh, that's unprofessional." Like he's out there trying to break them and make them crack or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, if you would have told me the thing that was gonna break somebody was calling him a little Ucey, like I think it's in their own head at some point. Like they know that he's trying, and it got him. Yeah. But anyway,
I thought that was
in
hilarious.
general, I mean, in general, it's just fucking awesome. Like the stuff that they're doing. To me, it's the mannerisms. Like he was never like a favorite of mine. I liked him, but he was never a favorite. But I know this sounds dumb. After I watched the Broken Skull sessions with him, with Sami Zayn was on there, like my respect and my like for Sami completely jumped up to another level. And a lot of times, by the way, that happens. If you get somebody outside and you like learn a little more about them, like it just kind of leapfrogs up, in my opinion. That's in my take anyway.
That Broken Skull sessions is every one I've watched has been terrific. And did you think Austin would be good at that? Did you ever think?
Oh yeah. I listened to his podcast enough that I knew when they started those, I knew they would be good.
Okay.
Yeah. I had done enough of his podcast to know that. Yeah. So, but it's money. But
speaking about funny, if we're going to continue to talk about funny stuff, and let's Halloween Havoc, how epic was R-Truth on Halloween Havoc? How epic was R-Truth coming out on Raw and doing the John Cena bit? How valuable is he? I hope he gets another run. I don't know. He's old. But I hope he gets at least Benjamin one more great run.
Like he doesn't. He doesn't look his age at all.
No, and he's in phenomenal shape. Just absolutely phenomenal shape. But he's good. He's funny. He's a good actor. He's a performer. You can bring him out to host like a Halloween Havoc. You can bring him to do so many different things. Is he not probably one of the most versatile people that they have on the roster that they can use anywhere, anytime?
Oh yeah. I think the problem I think is he's been comedy for so long. I don't doubt his abilities to do it. I do have concerns with the crowd's willingness to jump him to a serious, if that makes sense. Like R-Truth, and here's the funny thing. At the time when he was an NWA World Champion stuff, it made total sense. I'm not saying that I would ever put the world titles on him or the universal titles on him. But I could see like an Intercontinental or U.S. champion even with his character.
I heard maybe a tag run with Shelton Benjamin.
Sure. Even better. I think him playing off of a serious guy or something could be fun. Yeah. I could see that a lot. So that would be cool. But anyway, hey, I do want to bring up, because this is something about, one more run, another run. How cool was it that, the Great Muta announces he's on his little, his retirement tour.
Biggest wrestling news in the world, I think.
Yeah, Triple H is kind of like opening that door. And I know it's Noah. It's not New Japan or anything yet. And I'm saying yet for a reason. I think this day's coming, by the way, folks. But for him to allow Nakamura to go back and wrestle Muta in one of his final matches, how cool is that?
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing that gets to happen. It means something. Apparently Nakamura was big over there for a long time. I don't know anything at all about Japanese wrestling. I know Muta, I just think it's epic that they're opening these doors and we're getting to see things this big, and it's a goodwill. Okay. For how long has the WWE had just bad will with all the indies or other promotions around the world? After Vince took over all the territories, And now they're working with people. The Sheamus thing shocked me.
It was a surprise, but yes, but yes.
Because I couldn't even see that. Yeah, I could see Nakamura going back. That's something you could think about. When you saw it, it's like, oh, this is terrific and surprising. But letting Sheamus go too?
Yeah, Nakamura didn't want to travel alone.
Okay, give me travel.
I don't know.
Still, now I want to see this show. Okay?
Yeah.
I want to see the show. I got to find out how to get Pro Wrestling Noah. So.
Yeah. Ask Lewis. He could tell you. Lewis knows all that kind of stuff.
Send me the hookup on that, okay?
Yeah. So, speaking of the hookup, Myron, yes. 2 things. One, WrestleCade's just around the corner. Yes, I actually purchased our tickets ahead of time this year. I was a procrastinator last year, but I've already got the tickets, so we're all set to hit up the road. So it's the bad thing about that is it's going to make us miss some really good wrestling here.
Yeah.
We're going to miss the district show that Sunday because we'll still be there. Or actually, when that show's running, we'll probably be on the road coming back.
Yeah.
So that will be disappointing that we'll miss that show. I have not decided yet for sure. Honestly, I'm assuming, and I shouldn't assume, Southern Fried will probably run Thanksgiving night. They typically do.
I saw something, yeah. There's a couple other promotions doing it in Georgia right now.
Listen, I'm blunt. If I'm going to a Thanksgiving show, it's probably going to be Southern Fried.
Yeah.
They usually pull out all the stops on Thanksgiving. So, Todd Sexton and David Manders take my money on Thanksgiving, right? Hell, if the grandkids are here, I might take them. Who the hell knows? I'll take them to that one too.
Oh.
So, because even it was funny. We were doing Halloween last night with the family, and the wife pointed out that Thanksgiving we got to eat by this time. Because Dad typically, if he's going to wrestling, he's taking off at about 5. He's going to be leaving, so we need to be done and cleaned up before he leaves. So I'm like, standing from afar, and I heard that went. Prep them up, woman. Prep them up.
You got a planned, executed holiday tradition now.
Yeah.
We were talking about going out because most of my family goes to my brother's lake house. On Thanksgiving. We don't because I'm going to WrestleCade the next day, and I also probably work the day before Thanksgiving. So it's usually in a weird spot, and the kids, one's in college, one's working full time. I don't know what Melissa gets off for the holidays. I've begged her and begged and begged and begged to get to go to Southern Fried on Thanksgiving. She always says, "You better not," and she don't really lay her foot down with me very much, but that's been something she's not been able to budge on.
And we cut out that one. Especially like if there's nothing, if the day's done and it's over, like what?
She wants to sit around and just family all day. Well, I know the one kid's going to want to go to the boyfriend's house. The other one's probably going to want to go do this and that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I'll just sit here. I mean, if I have to, I'll just sit here and drink bourbon all day.
Well, there's that too,
pack for WrestleCade.
Yeah.
Because, dude, I'm so stoked. The talent list is amazing. And on top of it, Alan Angels, somebody we've seen since he was a little kid, working for Impact now. He's going to be on the Impact show. He's going to be there. I sent you the link to that match he had, that X Division match.
I saw it. Yeah.
Dude, he's looking great.
Yeah.
I think Impact's a really good, solid place for him.
Oh, 100%. It'll be a good place for him to keep working and keep getting that exposure. I 110% agree with you, man. I think it's a really smart move.
My autograph, I got to start like hiding money so I can get those autographs.
You got to plan it out, man. That's the other part. You got to plan it out. So, cause lots of stuff going on. By the way, shout outs. I mean, I've got, in my Whatnot show, Dennis that we met up there. He's been in there.
The
group. Yeah. I mean, look, think about it this way. It's like, who are you most looking forward to seeing? My wife asked me and I'll go, Rafe and Dave and Dennis and Dave, Gillespie and, I start, and she goes, who are they? And I'm like, oh yeah, they're not wrestlers. Like that's who I look forward to seeing at WrestleCade.
Oh yeah. It's the fellowship. It's the fellowship to me. That's the most important part,
yep.
And that's also why I go to wrestling, because of the fellowship too.
Yeah.
I
didn't forget you, Reggie, either, by the way. So anyway,
Reggie. Okay, Reggie is like a ghost because you'll just be standing around and Reggie comes into the picture. Reggie's always wherever we go, wherever there's belts around, Reggie's there. And you see pictures of him. Reggie's there every time there's belts. God, and he's cool as hell too.
Reggie's never at the bar though. I miss Reggie. Anyway.
Well, we spend too much time at the bar. Yeah. But then again, that's how we meet more famous people and more buddies.
Yeah, but I mean, look, but we've met a lot of good people, and especially before we take off this week, I wanted to bring our friend Derwin Baker sent in a couple topics to talk about. We're going to get into some of that Tales for the Territory stuff later, by the way, Derwin. That's why I didn't get into that.
Yes,
well, I want to go through them all because, and look at them. That's kind of the why. But he messaged about the Von Erich movie that they're working on. And it looks like, was it Zac Efron? He's like, he's the main. Yeah. So here, what's your takes? I'll start there, Myron. What's your takes on what you've heard on this Von Erich movie so far?
I really haven't heard that much. I am, if that's really, if they do like a really accurate representation, that's like one of the saddest stories on earth. Some of the most disturbing. What Dark Side of the Ring they did on them?
Yeah.
I knew most of the stuff, but I'd never seen it put together in like a chronological order with all the stories. Jesus. It's going to be overwhelming. And if people can look past the point it's wrestling and look at the people and the just the tragedy of the story, that could be an Oscar winner. Dude, that has to be the saddest story in professional wrestling. And a business full of horribly sad stories. I can't wait to see how people react to it outside of the wrestling business.
Yeah. Because I think people that your average Joe doesn't know. I mean, it's their life story is almost like written like a movie. It's a tragedy. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it is like, I mean, it's movie level, like drama and, the depth and all of the challenges and look, I mean, I will tell you that I am excited in the sense that they actually appear. I mean, look, and look, I know I'm probably going to catch some flack for the statement, but if Zac Efron's in it, that sounds like they're at least putting a little bit of money into it.
And you saw how much he got cut up. You saw how he's been working. Yeah. Because every one of those Von Erichs was in phenomenal shape. And probably Kevin the most. And so he's playing Kevin, right?
Kerry.
He's playing Kerry.
Kerry was the biggest, the jacked up one. So, I think he's playing Kerry it's not
Kevin's such a tragic figure.
It's not going to end well for him, but,
no.
But my thing is if they're putting that kind of a budget into it, that's the part of me that's like, okay, well, I think this has an opportunity to do well if they are investing that time. If they are investing time and money into it, hopefully we'll get something, that it's. But unfortunately, the story is written, and so we know how it's going to go. But I hope, in the grand scheme of things, I hope they pull it off. That's my hope. So
if they can make it appeal to people outside wrestling, it'll be a huge success.
And it should. That's the key thing, is it should, because of the, like I said, I think, it's Zac Efron, maybe that'll draw some eyes. If they put enough budget, put enough advertising in it.
Yeah.
I mean, but like you said, it's my whole take is their life is written like a Hollywood movie, even though it doesn't completely end well. It's still, there's lots of drama and stuff to go in there. But throwing that, hey, thanks for sending that in. We were just, I wanted to make sure we touched on that because I saw I guess it was this week's, the pictures leaked of him, all jacked up and stuff, getting ready for the role. So, just curious to see about all the rest of it for sure. But
here's one thing I wanted to talk about, and I forgot about it till the last minute. Okay, Jake Paul and Silva. I did not watch it, but I saw a lot of highlights. Ended in a decision for Jake Paul. every highlight I saw, Silva was just knocking the shit out of him. Did you?
I didn't watch it. I didn't pay for it. I mean, that's
No.
just not my cup of tea to pay for.
No, I don't like
but
real
I
combat
mean,
sport.
listen, I mean, if he won, he won. I mean, it doesn't stun me that he won, by the way. Anderson Silva's not a boxer. And I jokingly tell you that you probably saw the clips that whoever you were watching wanted you to see. If it creates controversy to see that, and you're, because it effectively worked that you're like, whoa, did he really win? Guess what that means you want to do? Well, then we should see a rematch, and then they can book a rematch. I mean, that's just my take.
I got worked by the real world.
Boxing works people just as good as pro wrestling, by the way. That's a regular statement.
So then Logan Paul has his big match this weekend in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Crown Jewel this weekend, brother. I mean, think about that. This weekend, Crown Jewel.
Georgia and Tennessee, probably the biggest game of the college football year so far.
Those are going to be at the same time, aren't they?
Probably. Well, I'll be at work, so it doesn't matter. I don't watch college football or listen to college football at work because of my inability to not curse loudly during college football games. So I'm gonna wait and just look at the score occasionally on my phone. But and then I'm gonna come home.
Well, the good news is if this new robot technology that I heard about will replace all of the pharmacy techs for you, then you won't actually even need. You'll be able to throw the cuss words around because it'll just be you in there.
Oh,
I literally heard. So, by the way, if you don't listen to Bill Burr's podcast, it was funny. There was a guy who went on this long diatribe about how the machines are going to replace the pharmacy techs and filling the prescriptions because he works for a national chain / retailer / pharmacy things that starts with the letter K. But he said, but then as he was saying it, he goes, but don't read that out loud on the air. And he goes, okay, Roger, I won't read that. So Roger, who works for a retail / pharmacist that starts with a K with 2,200 locations, Kroger. I guess
they get a lot more.
Yeah. That apparently they were looking into automotive robots because they said in the testing that they did, believe it or not, the machines were more accurate than the humans.
I don't doubt that at all. And the machines will replace us. The good part about it is, they're still going to need me, and I don't have that much longer to work.
There you go. Well, he said the next 3 to 4 years is it would take for them to actually probably.
I still got to work. I still got to work longer than that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but then even then they would still need you for a while. Like they would have to figure it all out along the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know how I side, but I thought that was the funniest story of, because, you know, as Bill Burr puts it, like, look, the robots are going to replace us anyway, because he goes, instead of working for sociopaths and creating machines that are eliminating the need for humans, why don't you find a machine that determines who the sociopaths are and create assassin robots to kill the sociopaths? We'll all be better off in the long run. Because it's always, he goes, there's always a genius, but the problem is the genius always ends up working for the sociopath. And you're like, that's not incorrect, actually.
No comment. I've only worked in retail for 30 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never encountered anything like that.
No,
CVS.
Never in the least, though. Anyways, so there's the humor to end the show this week. Anything else, man, before we get out of here?
Nope. How good is it to be a happy wrestling fan with nothing to complain about?
At least you got to make it right. I always tell people, make the effort not to complain about something. Because, it's something that struck home. It struck a chord with me, and I'm going to share it. But before I do, Myron, before I share my life lesson that I learned from one Mick Foley, I do want to plug, make sure you're checking us out on our YouTube channel, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, Tapped Out Podcast Network. Hey, if you want the show early, want some stuff early, like the bonus stuff that we throw in, hey, kudos to, it's only there on YouTube where you find stuff like the Black Adam review that author MB Mooney did for us. So, that stuff's exclusive to YouTube. It is not on our, podcast channel. That's, look, most of you, if you're listening to us on the audio, we only do the wrestling podcast, and that stuff's on, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, anywhere and everywhere there is a podcast platform. That's where you will find the wrestling podcast, but that wrestling podcast alone. Make sure you're subscribing to both, because definitely on the YouTube channel, by the way, you get a lot of that extra stuff that I think you'll enjoy. And now, because you listened through that, I'll share my life lesson before we get off of the air. Mick Foley and Conrad. Mick Foley's, by the way, if you're not, how many podcasts do I have to fucking listen to in a week, right? Because I share constantly, like, oh, you should listen to this one. You should listen to this one.
Yeah.
Mick Foley is one to add. In the latest episode, prior to us recording this episode, they went down a rabbit hole on concussions that just really, that stuff, by the way, because I'm a big sports, NFL, college football fan and stuff, the concussion thing is really something that I followed for a while. There's a really good conversation about this, but that's not what I learned. It's funny that he brought up the fact, because they were talking about, they were talking about Dixie Carter. They were talking about little bits of stuff about Tony Khan. And about, like, he said, like, what kind of self-deprecating fan base do we have to be that somebody like Dixie Carter, and Conrad says this a lot, and he said in Tony Khan now, and it's something that I kind of was like, Nick, you're probably a little guilty of this. Is wrestling better with Tony Khan or without Tony Khan? When you're honest with yourself.
I think it's better with him.
Absolutely. Because it gives us another thing to watch. It gives us another thing to look at. It gives how many wrestlers jobs that wouldn't have jobs right now?
Competition.
There's competition.
Competition makes everybody stronger.
And it's funny. Mick says, they say they don't see AEW as competition. But we know that that's not true. And they know they're better for it being there.
Mm-hmm.
But his take, again, was Dixie Carter gets crapped on a lot. TNA, LOL, blah, blah, blah. But think about how many jobs she created or she kept, for so long.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Rachel, my wife, we were having a talk about it. God, how to be married to me and have to listen to these bullshit conversations sometimes. It just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But I was talking about that whole thing, and she just kind of was like, and I'm like, but there's people that she knows when I say their name that it strikes a chord.
Yeah.
And I said this in hindsight. I don't know that it's 100% accurate, but you can't tell me that I'm 100% wrong either. If there's no Dixie Carter, is there an AJ Styles? Because TNA gave him that long run there. Now, look, you could make the argument he still would have been good enough that he could have been in Ring of Honor and New Japan and rose to the... But I'm like, but are you sure about that? His rise to heavyweight championship level, because think about it, in TNA, eventually he was rubbing shoulders with Ric Flair and Mick Foley and Hogan. And
yes.
So I'm like...
Connections. It gave him exposure in America. Getting exposure in Japan is hard to translate into American exposure. He was in front of your casual wrestling fan, people who watched TNA at the time. So
as much as we'd like to tough. Crap on them, I think this is where I talk about it struck chord to me. You need to be positive, not just about wrestling. How about everything? Like I wanted to see the Black Adam movie, and I posted the review for a reason. But you just see, like, I always look at it, and I said, somebody asked me the other day, and I said, wrestling Twitter's the worst.
I don't even go on there anymore.
But it's just a cesspool of everybody hating on the other side. And then, like, the need to go on, like, here's my take. Here's a funny thing. I actually said something, and I'm not going to, I can't even say specifically who it was, because honestly, I can't remember. But I remember reading somebody's expert review, and I thought of myself, to be honest with you, at one point. I'm like, an expert, like Joe Schmo review of Black Adam, and they basically shit all over it. And I understand you could tell me, like, yeah, I didn't like it. But there was a part of me that was like, you just went on like a 4-paragraph rant about how terrible this movie was. And I'm like, the funny part was, I'm like, But I don't really care. If I'm still going to go see it, I'm still going to go see it. Because I always tell people, like, in general, you're not changing people's mind on social media. So why be so negative?
I think if you really got a point, you can get it across a lot more with positivity. People will
Sure.
listen to positivity. I know people are drawn toward negativity, but positivity, I think, makes the biggest thing. And that's one thing I work hard on all the time is trying to stay positive and try to keep a good outlook on things. And I think it's better for the world. Mick Foley's got to be one of my top favorite human beings,
Yeah.
of all time. Great guy. But you were talking about comic book characters, Nick. What are you doing with Tapped Out Collectibles?
The Whatnot stuff's doing super, I mean, really good. The funny thing is, I've got some people that I know that are subscribing now to the podcast from everything we're doing on Whatnot. I run shows a couple times a week. We're selling. Dude, I've creatively gotten really unique on it. I'll tell you one thing and I haven't even gotten into telling you about all of the things we do. Because it's more interactive show. It's not like auction after auction after auction on Whatnot like a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. We play a lot of games on there. We play a game called Left, Right, Center, which basically let's say Myron wants to play for $100. He says, hey, I want to play for $100. So I'll go get 3 graded comics like behind me. I'll get one that's like 75, one that's 100, one that's 125. Or I let the person tell me, hey, I want a wider split. I'll get a $50, $100, and $150 comic, put them to my right. I shuffle them around like the old egg, the card game or whatever, shell game.
Yeah.
Then I kind of put my hands so everybody can see them. They pay for their slot to play, and then I'll go left, right, center, and they say left, right, center, and then I turn the camera so they can see the 3, and I flip over the one that they pick, left, right, center, whichever one they picked. I flip it over. That's the book they get. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I mean, but I try to tell them, like, look, in most scenarios, if I gave you a $100 book and a $150 book and a $50 book, 2 of the 3 you're at least going to break even or do better. One of them
your odds are real good on that.
Yeah. And then another one that we play on there, by the way, a lot of people love this one. Basically, if I get like a $50 comic book, I'll say 5 people play $10. It buys you a slot, and they have these I can't believe people get a kick out of this, but they have these duck race simulators online, and basically you assign names to the ducks, and you just click it, and then the ducks like run a race, and then the winner gets the prize, like the winner gets the book. So everybody pays an entry fee essentially to get in, and you could do it's like a duck race, yeah. So it's cool. Listen, it's a blast. I turn the camera. I have the duck race running on another screen, and the duck race runs, and they're like, "Yay, congrats!" It's like a great community involvement where everybody's just chatting and going back and forth. And then the last but not least, we have there's a wheel spin simulator, but on the computer. And basically, I'll type 5 names in, or like I'll say $100 book. I go 5 people pay $20 to get you an entry in. Put the 5 names on the wheel. It spins the wheel, and it lands on somebody, and that person wins. So I always tell them, like, hey, we'll either do the wheel spin or we'll do a duck race simulator or whatever. They did a funny one, by the way. For Halloween they've got like the monster race simulator, so it's like Frankenstein and Dracula and the woman running and racing and stuff. So just fun. It's fun. I mean, literally, it's just fun. But we're selling comic books and stuff like that. And I've done some trading cards and some random stuff as giveaways and stuff for fun too. So yeah, it's been fun, man, so far. So, and we have a lot of people that, believe it or not, come in there and just chat about wrestling. So that people will ask me, like, because you'll be amazed at what I've learned, that people are old school wrestling fans. Like, oh, I've been a fan since I was a kid. Andre picked me up when I was a kid, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're just kind of telling stories like that. So yeah, check us out, man, over on Whatnot. By the way, Myron, if I had to tell you, hey, we're on Whatnot, what would our screen name be?
Tap Out Pod?
That is correct. So basically, if you're looking for our store on Whatnot, it's just Tapped Out Pod. Because
where's the eBay store?
Tapped Out Pod. It's Tapped Out Collectibles. Literally, it's everything. So I always, and that's funny because they're asking me like, hey, do you have an Instagram account? Yes, I do. What's your handle? I was like, it's Tapped Out Pod. What's your Twitter? Yeah, it's Tapped Out Pod. What's your handle on YouTube? Tapped Out Pod. They're like, oh, really? What's your email? tappedoutpod@gmail.com. And they're like, I had to see a theme developing. Yes, that's correct.
Branding.
It's all about branding, folks. Branding. So speaking of branding, There's some famous words that people are looking for, Myron, every show
What's that?
when we go home. So what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.